I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Scott Gurian. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I am excellent. Thanks for asking. Thank you for asking. Tell me, Scott, what part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in northern New Jersey, just outside of New York.
Wow. I think the other guy I was speaking to was also from New Jersey. Wow. Isn't that, fascinating. Okay. You guys forgot to ask where you're from, right?
No, I didn't even think.
Yeah, it happens. So Scott got the opportunity to meet the previous person I was speaking to, who will be the previous podcast release, which is fascinating. It's like a new thing I'm doing. I think it's a nice way to say hi and just see, at least feel the connection, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly.
So Scott, tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us meeting?
Well, I think at my heart, my talent is that I'm a storyteller, and I've kind of always had a natural curiosity about the world and meeting people, experiencing different places and cultures, and kind of telling people's stories, even when they might have a different experience or a worldview than myself, trying to kind of put myself in their shoes to understand where they're coming from and why they might think or feel differently from me. And usually the medium that I, tell their people's stories is through audio. For years, I worked as a public radio reporter and producer. And most recently, I'm the host of my own podcast. It's called Far From Home, which I describe as a show about my unexpected adventures and chance encounters with interesting people around the world. Wow. And to start off, I'm actually telling the story of a massive road trip I took last summer with my brother and some friends. We drove 11,000 miles through about 18 countries, 8 time zones, 5 mountain ranges, and a few deserts, all the way from London to Mongolia, meeting people along the way and getting interesting stories as well as the stories of our own trip.
Did I say wow?
Yes. Yeah, it was quite an adventure. And actually, once I got all the way to Mongolia, I wanted to continue gathering more stories for future episodes of my podcast. So then I ended up actually driving all the way back. So it was 18,000 miles round trip. So a lot of traveling. I've seen a lot of parts of the world that most people never get to see in their lifetimes. I feel very fortunate.
Wow. Did I say wow?
I left you speechless. Yeah, I see that. When I tell people about my trip, a lot of people have that reaction. Yes.
Yeah. It is a lot. But, isn't it intriguing how you could step out of bounds, out of limitations, do something, sacrifice what is the norm and the value you can get from it? Isn't it fascinating?
Yes, yeah, certainly. And especially to get to meet people in parts of the world where before my trip, I would tell people back home that I was going to be traveling through places like Iran, through Tajikistan, right across the border from, Afghanistan, through some of these places where people back home were very worried about me. And they said, how could you go there? We're very worried. It's dangerous. And it's interesting. Iran, I've traveled a fair amount. I guess I've been to about 40 or so countries after this trip. Friendliest people I've met anywhere in the world were in Iran. Wow. They were so eager to meet Americans when we told them that's where we were from. They had so many questions for us, just the Persian hospitality. They were so warm and welcoming. We would talk to them for 5 minutes and suddenly they would be inviting us to their home to come meet their family, come for tea, come for dinner, stay with them. Just extraordinary people. And it's a very eye-opening experience to be able to travel and meet people like this.
Wow. So who did you learn the skill from? The skill specifically of there's a book by the name of the book is Weird by Craig Groeschel, and he really pushes you to be weird. And most definitely what you did is something that's weird, right? Who did you learn that from? Confidence in being, let's say, unique then.
I guess from a young age, our mother raised my brother and myself to be very independent, to kind of go off on our own and have confidence in ourselves and our abilities. We would go on trips even as children, and she would have us do the map reading and navigate. We did some traveling. We used to scuba dive, so we've been around, your part of the world a little bit around the Caribbean. And I think we were, I guess, raised to be very open-minded, being, growing up in the New York area, which is a very diverse area, seeing a lot of people who were different from us or came from other places. I think we were just raised to be very curious, and as you grow up, that doesn't go away. You just always kind of want to see more, meet more people, and I think of myself as a lifelong learner, and I want to continue that way.
I would think one of the challenges with traveling and expanding your mind is the contraction you then need to put your mind in, right? So you travel and you're blown away, right? You see cultures and different people, and then you come back to this, like let's say New Jersey, and then you're there, right? So it's this limited lifestyle. Why will you continue to repeat the skill of expanding in spite of this?
Ideally in the future, I'd like to spend more time traveling, and spend more time actually living abroad, rather than, because, there is a feeling, I guess, of sometimes being a bit restless when you come back to normal life. And, granted, again, I'm in the New York area, so I'm not, in a very rural area where I feel remote and like I'm imprisoned or anything like that. I don't know. A lot of people have asked me if there was a lot of, first of all, culture shock when I first went away, and then if I felt really restless, if I was homesick while I was away, and then I wanted to get back, and now if I'm restless now that I'm back. But I guess I'm pretty flexible, and I don't know. I get used to any situation I'm in, which I guess is a good skill to have if you're picking up, going to different places and immersing yourself in different cultures.
Yeah, it is. Definitely is a topic in itself, where the person strength of who he or she is really determines how far he or she goes. But that's another topic. Tell me one other thing you've done consistently, though, Scott, over the last 3 years.
One other thing I've done consistently, aside from starting my podcast, well, I guess maybe it was a little bit longer ago than 3 years ago, but I had, before this, I spent several years reporting on the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy, which hit along the New Jersey coast. Again, gathering people's stories whose homes, and livelihoods were destroyed, and finding, what happened to them, and just trying to tell their stories, get the help to these people that we're seeing all over again in places like Texas and parts of the Caribbean. Again, to try to learn the lessons from what's happened, and how people can be better prepared for future storms.
Seeing that, how did it make you feel?
A little bit sad about all the dysfunction in the bureaucratic system that's supposed to help people, which I know a lot of people right now in Puerto Rico are incredibly frustrated. That the systems that people thought were there for them in case of a disaster sometimes aren't there, or there's a lot more problems. Things aren't as smooth they don't go as smoothly as people thought they would. But I think I've learned a lot. Again, it's really fascinating for me, because it's almost like you get a college level education.
Exactly.
The more research you do about all these things, and you just learn how things work that the average person might just have a vague sense of how some government program works or something. And suddenly I'm just a reporter, but suddenly I'm the one that people start turning to for answers. And I tell them what I've learned, but I don't consider myself an expert. I just, happen to have learned it along the way. So it's always fascinating.
Why would you suggest someone out there that is listening, do what you've done specifically to, it's as though you've taken an out of college model, and you've created a real life school model.
Yes.
Why would you suggest someone do that with their lives or their careers?
It's an interesting question. It's obviously a personal choice, but I'm someone who always likes to learn, I've always had a thirst to understand how things work. There's so much going on in the world, and I don't know, there's just a sense of when you understand how things work behind the scenes, you don't feel powerless like a lot of people do. And it's just a curiosity of, I'm just a naturally curious person. Not everyone is that way. I understand that. But if someone is curious, I think traveling is the best way. It really broadens your mind. It gives you new perspectives. It's so different hearing about something going on around the world, just watching it on television or watching a documentary or something, but actually experiencing it or meeting people in these places, seeing with your own eyes. It's so different. And I feel like if more people traveled or had the means to travel, not just on traditional vacations or sit on a beach or somewhere, but actually to get out there, maybe go to third world countries to really see more of the world, I feel like we would have a lot less problems. There'd be a lot more understanding. There'd be less wars. It's amazing, how much it opens up your mind.
Amazing audience. We are live here with Scott Gurian. Scott has the podcast Far From Home. He is an award-winning radio journalist. You can check him out. I'm so excited to check out the podcast Far From Home. So excited. So, Scott, let's switch gears. You're welcome. Scott, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Scott, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory? Wow. I guess growing up when our mother was doing a lot of traveling. She was a single mother raising my brother and myself. And so she had a woman who took care of us who was actually from Barbados. And just I guess maybe the wonderful cooking that she did for us of the really delicious Caribbean food she would make, of these dumplings and the soup and this fish, cuckoo, I think it was called. It was like a green fish. Yes. So I'm sure you're familiar with. And I've always loved cooking, and I actually still have some of her recipes. Coconut bread I just made recently that she used to make for us. So food is a big part of my life, and that's another reason why I love traveling and seeing different cultures, seeing the wonderful foods in some of these places.
Wow, how old do you think you were?
That age, I was a child. Would have been still young in school while my mother was working, and we were too young for her to leave us alone. So in grammar school aged, I don't know, maybe fourth grade, something like that.
Wow. Why do you think this memory is so clear?
Just as I said, food has always been a big part of my life, and I think I've grown to appreciate it even more now that I've gotten older and do my own cooking. Yeah. And again, the different tastes, different spices, things from around the world that I might not normally have in my own cuisine here. But I feel like food is a way into other people's lives and cultures in different parts of the world.
Love it. Scott, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I love the fact that your independence was something that was necessary on the process to you experiencing even more. So your mother, she needed to leave, right? But in leaving, in not being there, right, it created a window, if you would, into a whole new world. And to see that leaving, even where you call home, to travel, and the new world that opened, and now it's opening a world to so many other people, right? Listeners to the podcast, friends, family. It's fascinating. It is fascinating.
Yeah. I think that's accurate. Yes, she kind of left us on our own, but that helped us to be more independent, and it's kind of instilled in us from a young age that desire and to feel comfortable, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable traveling or going to just going out of their comfort zone. And I'm glad that was instilled in me from a young age, and now I'm trying to bring that to other people.
It's just really fascinating. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song when I was 12. I'm trying to think. I think the first cassette tape I bought was the soundtrack to the what was that movie with Tom Cruise? Cocktail, I think. It had Kokomo by the Beach Boys. And what else? I forget all the songs around there, but I think that was like, I guess, a hit song around. That may have been a little earlier than 12. Yeah, that's one of the first kind of popular songs when I was a kid, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Like sometimes the name of the songs or even the albums, like the way you just called it. I mean, there's no doubt in your fascination with food, right? Cocktails, right?
Oh yeah, I suppose I hadn't thought of that, but I suppose so. I've never even seen the movie. I just remember the soundtrack.
Well, Scott, we have arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. Scott, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Someone to pass on my skills to? I've had people approach me at times, and I always try to give help to anyone who's looking for advice, to either get them a job or give them advice to, how to get into radio or podcasting. I haven't chosen a particular person yet, but I don't know that I don't want to limit it to one person. I'm always open to giving help or advice to anyone who approaches me.
Are you married?
No, I'm not.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you believe in God?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I have yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, I watch very little TV.
How about 3 hours a week?
I mainly just listen to audio podcasts and radio more than television. I don't even, very rarely watch television.
And what about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I'm on my phone a lot, like on the internet, but I wouldn't say 8 hours a day, not that much.
Scott, my friend, after having 1,001 conversations in 2016, I came up with a workbook that's called Yours, and it's an acronym that stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. Mm-hmm. And connected to that is your own unique real statement, your mission. If you would share with us your own unique real statement that represents who Scott Gurian is, right? Mm-hmm. What would you say that is?
A statement of who I am. I think, as I kind of touched on earlier, I think I think for me, it's the most important thing to me is trying to foster dialogue and understanding between people, including, people who we might not think we have much in common with, if I'm able to travel to other places and bring back their voices and play them for my audience. And then I think through hearing other people's voices and hearing about their experiences, my listeners can understand that all of us in the world are more alike than we are different, and that we have more in common than we think we do.
Love it.
And also that anywhere we go in the world, people are generally good people.
Scott Gurian, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, I think that's everything. I really appreciate your time and for reaching out to me, and good luck with your project.
Hey, thank you, Scott Gurian. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
For you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.